Hey everyone, it's Scott with BikeRide.com, and if you like watching a grown man ride a child-sized bike, you're in the right place. Today, we're looking at a mini electric bike that is small in size and relatively light on your wallet. It's the DYU D3F mini folding electric bike. At about half the cost of a full-size budget e-bike, it could be considered affordable by some, but I'm pretty skeptical if this little thing can live up to the claims that DYU is making, like a pedal assist range of 30 to 37 miles or the ability to climb a 15-degree grade. They say don't judge a package by its size though, so no going easy on this little e-bike. It's time to put this thing through its paces with all the tests we would normally do and see just how many miles we can squeeze out of this little guy. So stick around for the results, or at least just the hilarious B-roll that's going to come out of this test. Do you think we can really survive 30 miles on this bike? Let's start and see. Let's go ride some bikes. So what is the D3F by DYU? Starting off how we always do, let's dive into this bike before we see how far it really will go. So the name is pretty accurate for this bike, the mini electric folding bike. It's small in size with 14-inch tires and handlebars at about waist height for my 6-foot frame. The folding function is not a half fold as we see with other folders. Rather, the handlebars fold at the center, allowing the bike to have a diminished profile, and the pedals also fold up. It's about 38 pounds and packs a 10 amp hour integrated battery that cannot be removed, so you're going to be bringing it indoors with the attached carry handle for any charging. The bike looks a little odd, and the first ride has a similar vibe. It cycles between childish fun and a slightly awkward feeling of riding an undersized item. At least for me, at 6 feet, the fit is less than ideal, but somehow manageable for shorter periods. If this can really go 30 plus miles in the range test, it's gonna be a tough one. So in a nutshell, the DYU seems to be a great toy e-bike, plus maybe a short range or mixed commuter with a lower weight and general profile. Its mobility is definitely increased, so is it just a toy, or could it be of some use to some of the budget-minded commuters needing a smaller e-bike? Let's take a look at the pros and cons and find out a little bit more. Starting with the pros. For our first pro for the DYU, we've got the fact that it has a relatively compact size. It's definitely small, and it's relatively light at about 38 pounds. So while it's not the lightest and smallest of all the mini e-bikes that are available, this is definitely its main selling point. It will go in places that other bikes simply won't, like the boot of a car. Plus, with the attached carry handle and small size, it's able to be carried and easily moved around tighter urban spaces. It's still heavy to lift at almost 40 pounds in a little bit of an unwieldy package, but the ability to slim down the overall shape and condense the size is a big plus if you need to fit it in small spaces when you're not out riding. So this is definitely the first pro for this bike. The second pro for the DYU is the fact that it's nimble to maneuver. The bike's small size is also a benefit when you're riding in the tight confines of an urban environment, and the small wheels make the turning radius of this bike very small, so it definitely turns on a dime. And while it's a little sketchy to do that at speed, it's a bonus when you're doing low speed maneuvers in a crowded environment. So size is definitely the largest benefit of this little bike, both when you're riding it and when you're storing it. And I found that it was nice and easy to weave in and out on the pavement and get where you're going in tighter areas. So that's definitely the second plus for this bike.
When it comes to our third pro, we've got an impressive range for its small size. Despite the fact that the battery cannot be removed, it is large. A 10 amp hour battery operating a small 250 watt motor could be considered oversized for this small bike. It was able to power the unit for over 22 miles using mainly the throttle, which is quite impressive. Now this route included only mellow grades, but the bike made it up them with only a little bit of additional pedal power included, so the range test was quite slow, taking over 2 hours to reach the 22-mile max, but still, being able to throttle yourself over 20 miles on this little bike really made it seem like a capable mini commuter. So the bike won back some serious points with its overall battery range.
Now to look at the cons. For our first con on this bike, we've got the fact that we don't have a removable battery. So we're seeing a battery that is integrated right into the frame. And this means that you will not be able to remove the battery for charging or if you ever needed to replace that battery. You also aren't going to have the option to bring a second battery along for the ride, and the entire unit is going to need to be replaced should it suffer some kind of a mechanical issue with that battery. So this is not as practical as a removable battery and is pretty downright inconvenient on this bike. And for our second con, we've got the fact that this bike really cannot climb hills. Go beyond a slight incline and the bike just has no power. You're basically better off walking up most hills. I don't know where they got the claim that it'll climb a 15% grade, but it would never make it. Short, gentle hills and flat ground are all this bike is really ever going to be made for. And finally, for our third con, we've got the fact that it has some pretty twitchy steering. So the combination of that long stem and the straight narrow handlebars with those 14-inch wheel set made the bike very twitchy to steer. Small movements make for a big response, and the small wheels are not very comfortable at speed. It feels like you're riding a shrunken little unit, and I was thankful the thing tops out at about 15.5 miles per hour. At speed, I preferred other mini e-bikes with larger tire sets than this bike, so be careful riding it. Overall, the handling lends itself more to being a child's toy than a true e-bike, and I felt that it was a little bit uncomfortable. And finally, for our fourth con, we've got the fact that this has reversed brake levers. So on the test model we received, the right-hand brake lever operated the front brake and the left operated the rear brake, which is opposite to the general setup that we see in North America. And it made for a very confusing first stop. A definite con with such a small wheelbase. This could lead to a pretty nasty spill if you stop from that top speed of 15 miles per hour with only the front brake. So luckily these front brakes are not the most powerful in the world, but it still was quite confusing. And I don't know why they would have set this up opposite like that. So be careful when you're taking this thing out for your first ride. So with those pros and cons in mind, what does it do best? The bike uses its size to its advantage and offers a really lightweight package that is pretty easy on the wallet. If you wanted a good toy for a youth, this would probably be it. Either that or a very light duty commuter with the ability to throw in the back of a compact car if you have no access to a car rack. And who should buy this bike? The bike would probably be a good choice for budget-minded riders looking for an e-bike that will fit into small spaces other bikes would not. It's a situation where I would only really see people purchasing this bike if they needed the specific abilities that it has, like the ability to fold down and fit in the boot of a car. So what would be some of the reasons to look elsewhere? The main reason is that the bike is tiny. Larger riders will not be comfortable. I also have serious doubts about its ability to act as a commuter in any sense unless you live in a small, flat, urban area and need to fit it into tight spots. Other bikes may offer better overall value, even among mini and folding bikes. The best part about this bike is probably the price tag, so buy accordingly. And let's go through this bike in detail, starting with the frame and the geometry. This bike is a little strange. With a long stem and a short standover height, it was not made for tall people. And at 6 feet, I felt pretty cramped. Even with the seat fully extended, my pedaling was uncomfortable as I struggled to get enough leg room, and I felt like I was riding a little clown bike. The long stem and tiny tires also made for a jittery steering experience in general, and the bike feels just how it looks, small and a little odd. The frame is pretty robust and compact at 38 pounds, with the built-in carry handle adding to it as an easy lift point for the bike. So that was a nice feature to see. Looking at the motor, we've got this little 250 watt motor, which is trying really hard, but with only 10 Newton meters of torque, it's only really capable of so much. On gentle terrain, the motor is helpful enough. The throttle kicks in with a slight delay and it will gradually get you to that top speed of 15 miles per hour. The pedal assist offers significantly more pep as you add to the motor with your leg power, but with only a single assist setting and a single gear to back that up, the bike is very limited, and its ability to climb hills is questionable at best. It's really only suited for flat ground, and the motor is easily the smallest and least powerful that we've ever ridden. Looking at the cockpit and the control on this unit, the cockpit and controls are very minimal. Only 2 buttons control the unit and 4 LED lights indicate on, off, and the battery level. The straight 480mm bars are easily removed with a clamp, and they have some uncomfortable integrated plastic grips which have a half-twist throttle. The generic aluminum mechanical levers and a simple bell complete the cockpit. You turn the bike on or off with a single click of the on button, and on the opposite side, a cruise control button will keep you at speed while you're moving if you press that. Long pressing this cruise control button for 3 seconds activates and deactivates the front light, and the battery is shown as 4 LED lights. Talking about that battery, we've got an integrated 10 amp hour battery that is not removable, and it's a major drawback on the bike. The battery is larger than some other mini bikes that we've tested, but with a small size motor, it makes for a longer range. But not having it be removable is a serious drawback on this unit.
Despite the fact that the battery cannot be removed, it is large. A 10 amp hour battery operating a small 250 watt motor could be considered oversized for this small bike. It was able to power the unit for over 22 miles using mainly the throttle, which is quite impressive. Now this route included only mellow grades, but the bike made it up them with only a little bit of additional pedal power included, so the range test was quite slow, taking over 2 hours to reach the 22-mile max, but still, being able to throttle yourself over 20 miles on this little bike really made it seem like a capable mini commuter. So the bike won back some serious points with its overall battery range.
Looking at the charger, battery removal, and keys, we've got a charger that plugs directly into that integrated battery low down on the unit, and it's covered with a small rubber plug, so it can be pretty tough to locate at first when the bike needs to be brought in to charge, because you can't take that battery off. So you have to bring it to wherever your charging location is going to be, and it's a pretty big negative. Luckily, the bike is small enough to bring inside, but it's still a drawback as you're not going to want to leave this outside where it could get wet. There's also no key and no ability to remove the battery, which is a pretty big rarity among e-bikes, which would normally be featuring a removable battery and a key. Looking at the drivetrain, this bike only has a single speed drivetrain with a very short crankset, so it's a tough pedal at pretty much any speeds, at low speeds especially, and at high speeds it has a very uncomfortably fast cadence. It's really a single gear that doesn't climb well, so the drivetrain leaves a lot to be desired on this bike. And moving forward, when it's time to stop, you've got a basic set of mechanical brakes, which have 160mm rotors on them and mechanical calipers front and back. So the opponents really appear oversized and robust on this small unit, and they seem to stop the bike pretty quickly, but really this is a pretty small set of brakes, and with a top speed of 15 miles per hour, it's not very challenging to stop it. But it was quite confusing because we had a reversed braking setup on this, where the right hand brake was actually stopping with the front brake and the left brake lever was controlling the rear brake. So it was totally the opposite of what we normally experience and was very confusing on this unit. Looking at the wheels and tires, we've got a pretty small set of 14-inch wheels with a relatively skinny 14 by 2.25 inch tire, which are really only suited to the pavement and hard packed surfaces. They really sink quickly on loose ground and are pretty sketchy at speed on anything but pavement. The small wheels are also quick to wander with only a slight movement of the bars, so I did not enjoy the small wheel size except for when I was maneuvering in a very small space. And when we look at the kickstand, it's very similar. We're sporting the standard one-sided kickstand, just miniature like the rest of the bike. It operated fine, but just in miniature form. And then if we go forward and look at the contact points here, there's not much to be said about the contact points. The plastic grips are hard and pretty uncomfortable, but they function just fine. They appear to be built in, so there's no changing these. The seat is reasonably cushioned, but it has kind of a strange sloped support. So the seat post is also still too short for my 6-foot frame, causing me some discomfort while I was pedaling. And those pedals are just some very basic plastic pedals that we've got there, but they can flip up and down, which is diminishing the overall size of the bike and streamlining that profile a bit. So I was just a tiny bit disappointed, but with everything about the DYU being pretty tiny, it was hardly a surprise. If you have a small commute and you're looking for an e-bike to match, it might make a good fit. Otherwise, the best spot for this little bike is probably as a gift for a little one in your life around you. I would have loved one of these as a kid to ride around the neighborhood, and it's definitely better than walking, but still, I have to say, the audience for this little bike may end up being pretty small itself. So if you're riding one of these, let me know in the comments what you think and what kind of commute you're doing. Is this bike for you? Check out the detailed specs at bikeride.com and see user and expert reviews. You can also check out other great e-bikes and see them rated to find your perfect match. Plus, do you have a question or something you want to say? Let me know in the comments and we'll start getting you some answers. If you like this video, give us a like and subscribe so we can keep on bringing you the latest e-bike reviews and news. I'm Scott with bikeride.com. I want to say thanks for watching and I hope you enjoy the ride.